And I like the fact that you want us to talk about investing, right? Because that is the number one way of building wealth in America, investing on the US stock market. Number one. And number two, for most people listening to us, most of us were raised to understand we have to save our money. That is true. That is powerful, but that's just one part of the story. Saving is one part. But what do you do with saving? Because we know there is something called inflation. Inflation is a very complex economic big term that they use for economic circles to make people feel important. What inflation really means is that the value of your money is depreciating over time. So,
Yeah,
for example, the value of $100 today, what $100 can go buy in the grocery store today, if you hold that same $100, put it under your pillow at home and take it out this same time in 2026, that $100 will buy less than it
absolutely.
bought today. What it really means is that the value of that money has depreciated.
Welcome to the Thriving Immigrant podcast with Paul Adeyeye. This is where we share powerful stories of resilience, reinvention, transformation, and success. So, whether you're a new immigrant, navigating a new life, or an aspiring entrepreneur looking for inspiration, this podcast is for you. Join me as we dive into real conversations with incredible individuals who have turned challenges into opportunities. Let's learn, grow, and thrive together. Cheers to a life of. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Immigrant podcast. If you are joining me for the very first time, I want to say a big thank you for tuning into this podcast. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for always coming back. And I would like to say, please share this episode with someone, share this podcast with someone. Let's continue to bless the community. I am so excited about today's conversation. I've got a remarkable guest on the show. His name is Gustav Hachu. He's my brother from Cameroon. He's been in the US for, I would say, nearly 2 decades or more, and he has learned a lot of lessons. So, if you are joining me or listening to this podcast today, you are in for a great time. He's been through the ups and downs. He understands the journey of a typical immigrant coming from Cameroon over how many years ago. He's going to share his story. So I'm excited to have Gustav on the Thriving Immigrant podcast, all the way from Texas, USA. So join me in welcoming Gustav to the Thriving Immigrant podcast. Hi, Gustav.
Hey,
Welcome.
hey, Paul, how are you, my brother? It's a great pleasure to be on your platform again. How have you been?
I've been well. Thank you so much for asking.
Awesome. It's a great honor and deep, deep, deep pleasure for me to be on your platform. As you know, what we are doing is a labor of love, right? We are
Absolutely.
pursuing a path that has no guarantee, but we know has meaning. And at the end of the day, that aligns with the purpose for which we were born. So I'm really glad to be on the podcast. I'm so proud of the excellent work you've been doing. I've been watching a lot of your episodes. I've been watching a lot of the guests you bring, high quality guests. And it just reminds me of how beautiful a time it is for us living today. In
Hmm.
a time where you can complete any kind of education you want free. I was just thinking about the volume of different guests you've brought on your podcast, from real estate experts to life planning, insurance to IT to different career advisors. All of these people doling out nuggets upon nuggets, ideas, knowledge, and all this different information free of charge.
Thank you,
All we
Gustav.
need is just for people to watch, subscribe to the channel, like the information, and that way they can get more of this. I couldn't comment more what you do, man. I'm so proud of you, bro.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for what you are doing too. So, Gustav is also a podcaster. He owns the podcast You Are Enough. I'm sure you can see it on his hat.
Correct.
So,
You are
let's,
enough with Gustav D. Yachu.
yes, so look out for his podcast on, it's everywhere on YouTube. You're going to learn a lot. And I am just so proud of what you are doing too. And thank you for those kind words. Okay, so
Absolutely.
let's get it going. I would call you an OG because you've been in the States for quite a while. Do you want to walk us
Right.
through your immigration journey? When did you move to the US and how has it been so far?
When you call me an OG, I feel old, man. But But yes, I've been in the US now since the year 2000. I finished university in Cameroon, Yaoundé University, and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in law. So, as you can tell, I'm originally from Cameroon. And I moved to the US in 2000, young 23-year-old, a lot of ambitions, not too much in the pocket, a lot of hair in the head, right? And so when I moved here, of course, as most of you can testify from your own journeys, about 70 to 80 pounds lighter, right? A lot of passion in my heart, a lot of ambition. And I was coming in, I wasn't clear exactly what is it that I was coming in for, but I knew deep in my heart that there was a place for me. I knew from the get-go that in this country called America, in this place where an immigrant can come in and find a way to become successful, I deserve a seat on the table. So from the very first day I got into America, I knew not only that there was more for me, but that my number one responsibility is to go out and figure out how to live my purpose and be able to live my potential to the best of my ability. So I came in 2000. I started working as a nursing assistant because we came for a special program by a company called Presbyterian Homes and Services. So I was working as a nursing assistant, taking care of older adults. About a year later, I went back to school, became an LVN or LPN, a licensed practical nurse. And of course, I started doing that. At that time, of course, I knew becoming a licensed practical nurse means a little bit more money, right? A little pay raise because I'll be earning more. But
Yeah.
I didn't realize too that at the end of the day, it's a little bit more money. But to make some money, you still need to put in more hours. So I was still trading my body, my time, and everything for that. But it was a good experience because it gave me a chance to raise about $100,000, which 5 years after I started working as a licensed nurse, I took that money and went down to the University of California in Berkeley. Now, in the University of California in Berkeley, I completed a graduate program in marketing and international business. And right after finishing that, I caught a plane 3 days later and I was on my way back to Africa to go work on building a natural product distribution company along with my uncle. That's when I had a chance to work in Cameroon, in Nigeria. I taught every state in Nigeria. I
Oh,
went to
wow.
almost all the major cities. Oh, yes, I'm very familiar with Nigeria. I went to almost all the major cities and all the states because we're
Amazing.
opening new business, new branches of the business, and I was the marketing director. So I covered all of that. I spent about 3 years at that time in Africa. My family was still in Minneapolis, but I would fly back and forth. I spent 3 years. Business didn't go as I would have loved it to go. I had to come back to the States after 3 years, but I didn't only come back. I came back with my tail in between my legs, Paul. Man, I was in those 3 years, I lost over 150 grand in savings. I came back broke. I filed for bankruptcy, paid over 100,000 to the bankruptcy court. I was completely annihilated.
Oh my
That was
God.
the first time in my life I came face to face with the importance of decisions,
Mm,
especially when calamity hits. That
mm.
was the first time in my life I had to make decisions whether to fold, pack up, and give up on my dreams or to find a way to overcome the challenges that have set me back and be able to rebuild my life again. And I had to decide whether to use that opportunity as a judgment upon my life or to use it as a lesson upon what lies in my destiny. And as we get going with this conversation, I'll be sharing a lot more information, right?
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that background. Like I just couldn't I couldn't stop you. I was like, I think you should go on because there are so many things you've touched on briefly, like the fact that
Absolutely.
the fact that you studied law, and I never
Correct.
knew that you were a lawyer from like you had bachelor's degree in law and you've
Correct. But not
evolved.
a lawyer, though. I never
Yeah,
practiced.
you never practiced,
Correct.
okay, but
Yes.
you've evolved. You've done so many things. So look at your journey from law to becoming a nurse or someone
Correct.
practicing nursing, a nursing practitioner. Then you at some point you transitioned into IT. Like you've done so
Correct.
many things, and that's a typical journey of an immigrant. Wow.
Absolutely, Paul. Absolutely. You're very right because what is very certain, especially when you're an immigrant coming into America or Canada or some of these different countries, especially America and Canada, right? Just because America and Canada, I really believe gives immigrants the greatest latitude and the highest amount of possibilities to really make of your life. I know people in this country today who are even medical doctors who never did anything chemistry after Form 3 in secondary school, right? But they came to America. I, for one, I hated math. At the age of 12, I knew math wasn't my thing, right? I remember back then as a young man, I even used to write letters to my pen pals telling them my dream is to become a stockbroker on the stock market. And today I've kind of gone full circle. I am where I'd always dreamt about, but I didn't realize that was what life was taking me to. So, one of the things that is really interesting and important to understand, especially on this journey as an immigrant, is that fortitude to continue to look for the space where you believe you deserve to sit. You see, as immigrants, we tend to settle very easily, right? And the reason why we settle sometimes is very justifiable. It's comfortable. Yeah, we come from a background where we have a lot of people to take care. Maybe we have to do a few things, and then we start making some money, and then we're happy, right? But one of the things I realized immediately I came to America at that time is, Gustav, number one, you deserve a place on the table of greatness.
Wow. That's a powerful
I'd
mindset.
always told myself that that's why my journey exemplifies a lot of detours because I kept looking. When I became a nurse, I started working as a nurse. I was still young, so I had energy. I could do double shifts. At that time, they pay you time and a half for double shifts or something. I did it for a few years, but deep in my heart, I knew this is not the last bus stop. I knew this is not what I'm born to do. I knew there was something more. My job, my calling, my purpose in this life wasn't to just be a nurse and be passing medications to older adults in the nursing home, taking care of older people, and they die, we pray, and we move on to the next. It wasn't going to work. The second thing I quickly realized at that time is the secret to becoming successful, especially if you're an immigrant in America, in Canada, is number one, the volume of time you apply your body has to be getting lower and the returns on that time has to be getting higher.
Do you
That's
want
the
to
only
repeat
way you
that?
be. The volume of time you apply your body to generate money has to be reducing. Meanwhile, the amount of returns on that energy has to be increasing. So
Wow.
I told myself there got to be another way. Another way meaning what? There is no way everything I make in my life will be tied to the number of hours I work. It's a failed plan because I am going to be a single point of failure. That means if I am sick, if I am unable to come to work, if for some reason I can't come in and put in the time, then I'm finished. That is
Yeah.
one. And number two, I quickly realized that my body could not sustain that kind of thing for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Right? And so I kept telling myself, Gustav, there got to be something more. So as I started working as a nurse, the first thing I said, you know what? I have to go pursue some certificate in business. That's when I looked around and I decided I applied to the University of California in Berkeley. I got admission. That's one of the top business schools in the world. I got
Yes, I know.
admission to yes, to the
One of my
extent.
friends graduated about 2 years ago, and I visited University of Berkeley. It was an
Oh, you went
amazing.
there?
I was there 2 years ago.
Yes. You
It
felt the
was
energy. It's a
the
different kind
energy
of vibe.
different,
Yes.
completely
My
different.
professor used to come to class with a skateboard.
Interesting.
They're different. It's different over there, right?
Yeah.
So when I went down there, I spent a year there. I finished that, and then, as I said, 4 days later, I was on my way to Africa because my uncle has started this business in Cameroon, distributing natural health products through a system through network marketing. At that time, network marketing was still new. Now, when competitors of us at that time were companies like Forever Living, Tianshish, for people who might know, just to give people some context, right? And so we needed to expand the business into other countries in Africa. So my responsibility was that coming fresh out of Berkeley, my responsibility was to help expand the business in the Nigerian market, in Congo, in Gabon, in Central Africa. So I hit the ground running. I got immediately to Africa. I started working the next day and I was traveling all the time. That's when I had a chance to travel everywhere in Nigeria because between the months of September till about January, it's trade fair season in Nigeria. So we traveled
Yeah, that's
Calabar, Port
correct.
Harcourt, Kano, Kaduna, Jos, Owerri, Adamawa,
Did you
everywhere.
eat our
Beautiful
food?
country.
Did you eat our
Everything,
food?
man. That was over about 3 years. So I had a
Okay.
chance to eat all the beautiful food, right? But now What happened is eventually the business didn't progress the way we had wished. And so, of course, the returns, the financial returns and things like that, it wasn't really there. So I had to make a decision because my wife was still in the US with my 3 kids. So I had to make a decision and I came back to the US. But before coming back, I took a major risk. So before coming back, we had savings, but we had to burn through it. We had a home and another home, which was a rental property. Things were rough. We had to foreclose on that. Um, I filed for bankruptcy, paid over 100 and something thousand to the bankruptcy court. The only thing that still didn't leave me was my wife and my shadow. Everything else was tough. My family had to shop from a thrift store for over 4 years while we were
Oh.
rebuilding. But it taught me some very important lessons, Paul.
Hmm.
It taught me some very powerful lessons. And I want to share this with everybody watching because it's important for us immigrants to understand that if we want to get different results, we have to do different things. I understand we come from communities where we are very risk averse, but we also have to understand if you want to get a certain kind of results, then you must also be willing to make a certain kind of sacrifice, right? So for about 4 to 5 years after I came back, I stayed focused. I went back, I took my LVN license, I cleaned it up, I started working again as a nurse. I got 4 jobs at that time. I was working around the clock. I never had a chance to see my kids, to see my wife. I was hustling. And the first year of having 4 jobs, I made about $65,000.
Hmm.
Now, one day I'm driving and I called my cousin who I hadn't spoken to in about a year and a half, and we started chatting. I said, "What are you up to these days?" The guy told me he went to school, he went to a program that trained him to become an Oracle database administrator. I said, "What does that mean?" He tried to explain it to me, but it didn't make sense. I've never heard about IT careers, it didn't mean nothing. But you know what made sense to me? And that's one of the wisest decisions he made. He figured, instead of trying to explain this thing to try to convince me about it, he took a screenshot of his paycheck and sent it to me via text message. Oh, he said, bro, check your text message. Take your text message. I opened my text. I saw his screenshot of his paycheck for 2 weeks. I told him, "Where did you do that?" He said, "It's in Maryland." I said, "Let me have the name of the owner of the company. I'm calling him now to register." I didn't have no plan. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I
Wow.
felt it deep in me that something got to give.
Hmm. You were
I knew
hungry.
that there was no way I could survive working 4 jobs as a nurse. It's not commendable, it is not feasible, it is not sustainable, and something was going to give. And the thing that was going to give, if I only continued, was probably my health and my life. So
Hmm.
I had to make a decision. So I told myself, boy, I called the guy. This was in November. I called the guy. He said, yes, he has another class starting January of the next year and another one starting in the summer of the next year. So I told myself, I said, Gustav, you know what? I am going in January. When I got back home, I explained to my wife. And in all fairness, she pushed back. "Oh, no, how can you? We didn't plan for this." I told her, "Listen, honey, I understand what you're saying. I totally understand what you're saying. But I just feel it in me because I'm that kind of person. I work a lot with my instinct." I said, "I just
Hmm.
felt it in me. Number one. And number two, I've been pushed against the wall. But you just came from Africa. It's been a year. Things failed out there. You don't even think." I said, "No, no, no. I understand that. Let me tell you, in life, you see the stories, you see the glory, but nobody tells you the stories.
Hmm.
Do you make sense?" So I told her, I said, "Honey, you have to believe in me." I said, "Believe in me. Trust me. This is what I'm going to do." "No, but why don't you wait? Let's do that in the summer." And I don't advise anybody to do it that way, okay? But she said, "No, why don't we wait till the summer?" I told her, I could wait till the summer, but my only fear is that by the summer, my momentum and drive might have died.
Hmm.
I don't know. There are times in your life you
Eat
get
it when
into
it's
some
hot.
opportunity,
Yeah.
right? You get into something and you know it is within your control. And you know if you don't do it at a certain time, you will naturally fall back to what you are comfortable with.
Hmm.
That's why you have a lot of people complaining, but they don't move. It's just like a dog. I remember I was walking by a neighborhood one time, and this guy is visiting my friend. And we started chatting while we were walking down to visit another friend. And we're walking through this compound, and the dog is lying in the compound. And the dog keeps saying, "Oh, oh, oh," but the dog is not moving. So I asked the owner, "Why is the dog doing that?" The owner said the dog is laying down on a plank that has nails on it. I said, "But why don't the dog just get up and move?" The owner said it's not painful enough yet. That thing
Hmm.
never left me, right,
Hmm.
Paul? So I learned that, listen here. If it is painful enough, I got to do it now.
Wow.
I don't want
Gustav,
to wait till the summer.
let me stop you there. Let me stop you. You've said a lot, and your story is so powerful and inspiring. I just want to say to people listening right now that this is not to discredit any job. If you are a nurse,
Of course.
you are doing something amazing. You are impacting lives. So this is not to discredit any role at all. This is just his own personal story that is sharing and how he became hungry to look for more. So
Uh,
you have been in the US. Like you've spent more than half of your life in the US. You
yes,
moved there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll
So
be 49 in March. And so I
yeah,
came here at 23.
23. So you spent
Correct.
26 years. So this year is
Yes.
actually your silver jubilee. Did you do any big celebration?
No, you know what? My goal for this silver jubilee is I didn't hit it yet, but I hope I do that next year. My goal for my silver jubilee was just to get beyond $1 million in liquid assets on the stock market. I'm
Yeah.
slowly getting there, so I hope I do that.
Now
Right?
let's talk
And
about
that's when
that.
I might. That's when it's going to be a worthy silver jubilee for me. But here is the deal, Paul. You made a very important remark there. The most, other than what I'm doing now, possibly the most fulfilling career I've had is working as a nurse and a nursing assistant in a
Hmm.
nursing home.
Hmm.
Because at that time in my life, and I'm glad it happened early in my life, it really shaped my mind as to pursuing the things in life that are important. Because when you're working in a nursing home, you're dealing with older adults and you're dealing with people from different walks of life. You're dealing with former CEOs. You're dealing with people who built their own businesses, multimillionaires. You're dealing with people who didn't make it in life financially, but made it in life emotionally, spiritually. You're dealing with people who have rich stories, right? And the reason I share that is because we live in a time today when a lot of people mistakenly think contentment in life can only be found in material stuff and money.
Hmm.
When I worked at a nursing home for many years as a nurse, it was the most fulfilling career of my life. And believe you me, even after I became an IT professional, I've always kept my nursing license. I still have it till today. When I was even working in IT for some of the top technology companies, on the weekend, I would still go do home care as an LVN. That's how
Wow.
important that work is. I always tell a lot of immigrants who come into my coaching programs, I say, when you get into America, you get into a Canada, while you're still trying to figure out if you're not clear about what you want to do, what line you want to pursue, what opportunity you want to pursue, start with nursing.
Hmm.
Because you always need that license, you always come in handy, and you always at least be able to give you a minimum amount of income to live on, while you can leapfrog now and do the other things that you aspire to do. Right?
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad that you talked about that because the nurse might be listening to you right now. And I love the fact that you said that's one of the most fulfilling things you've done in your
Yes.
life. And it makes sense because you are helping people at the most vulnerable stage of their lives. Like
Yes.
regardless of what they've done in life, whether you are a CEO or you are a cleaner, at some point everyone ends up in that place and they need support. So thank
And
you
you
for the
see yourself in them.
and you
You
see
see yourself.
yourself in them. Like you look
Correct. You might not really end up in a nursing home. You might be in your own home, but you see the progression of life. You see
hmm.
their pictures on the wall. You see tall, handsome men who in their 30s, 40s were on top of the world, had Lamborghinis, had Porsches. You see beautiful women who could even compete for Miss World. And today they're cranky, they're beaten, they're old, they're tired, they're counting. They are relying on you for life.
Oh wow.
And it also gives you a chance to humble yourself, knowing that it doesn't matter whether you're rich, you are super rich, at some point in your life, you have to count on somebody else. You
Hmm.
have to trust that somebody else will feel compassion enough for you to want to do the right thing. Remember, in most of those places, you are in the room with the client or with the resident alone. There are no cameras or anything. You can decide if you want to do the right thing or you don't want to do the
Do the
right
right
thing.
thing. Hmm.
I don't know if it makes sense. You are
Yes, you do.
standing there with your conscience and your God. So it humbled me a lot. It taught me a lot about life. And it also reminded me that we don't have as much time as we think. Because a lot of them, I'll ask them about some of their pictures. Oh, I remember that. That was 1955. I was just 10 years married to my wife, and that's the first time we visited Las Vegas or something. Time is gone.
Time has gone.
He still remembers it like yesterday. So I realized, you know what? I don't have as much time. The urgency of now, as Obama talks about it. You think about it, you
Get it
analyze it
done.
a little bit, get it going. Because most people want to see the end before they start. Life doesn't work like that. Life is like the double doors at the Waldorf Astoria I went to in New York a few years ago. And these double doors, you have to go through the double doors to get into the hotel. But unfortunately, both doors can never be opened at once. So what that means, you have to go through the first door and it will close completely for the second door to
Condor to
open.
open.
Now I told myself, I told my wife and my kids, I'm going to beat this system. So I figured since it has a sensor, I want to place myself right in the middle, right there where it's possible that both doors could feel my presence and open. And it still didn't open.
That's a
That's how
powerful
life is.
lesson. That's a powerful lesson you just shared. Like you don't want to wait till all the doors are open because some doors will not open until the first doors or the
The
first
first door
door
closes.
closes.
I know
And
that, Paulo. I've experienced that in my life. I remember um, about 4 years ago, Paul. At that point, I was about 11 years into my IT career, making top dollar, close to 200 grand a year. And my dad had lived with us for about a year, and where he came to visit, and he fell sick, had an emergency, and my dad passed in North Carolina.
oh no,
And that was in the heart of COVID. This is 2021.
I'm so sorry. May the Lord
And
rest
I
his
took
soul.
2 days. Oh, yeah, thank you. I took 2 days out of my schedule to go make arrangements at our embassy because I had to follow some administrative processes and all of that. So we could repatriate his remains and we go lay him to rest honorably in Cameroon. And as I'm driving on New York Avenue in Washington, D.C., heading to Massachusetts Avenue, where the Cameroonian embassy is, my phone rings. I look at the number, it's my manager. At that time, I was working for one of the top technology companies. And I pick up the phone, I say, hello. He said, hello, Gustav. I said, hi, how are you? He said, fine. He said, how are you? I said, I feel blessed today. It's an awesome day to be alive. He says, Gustav, I know you took 2 days off to go bury your daddy, but I'm sorry, I got bad news for you. We decided to let some people go, and you're one of them.
Oh no.
That's in the middle of the street I'm driving. So I wrapped up the conversation. I tried to power it. I said, no. I moved the car on the side of the road. For a few minutes, I felt this rush of anger in me. I felt the blood rise to my head, but drop all of a sudden. I felt like my legs were becoming as melty as candle. I felt this frustration. I told myself, God, Gustav, you are not only going to be burying your hero, your mentor, the person you've always looked up to, but you'll be coming back from laying him to rest without a job. How are you going to take care of your wife? How are you going to take care of your children? At that point, my wife was in school. She's in school full time. So I was the one handling about $15,000 in monthly bills. How am I going to
Wow.
handle all of that? Who is going to take care of that? And then for a few minutes, I felt that emotion. And then I told myself, Gustav, come on now. Stop acting like a child, man. You're a grown man. When you give people permission to feed you, you give them authorization to starve you.
Powerful.
So you are telling yourself, Gustav, at that point, you've lived in America for 21 years. You've done multiple different things, including even becoming a used car salesman. You have all these gifts God has given you. You are a great orator. You are smart. You are intelligent. You have experience. You've been through a lot of difficult situations, which you can use to teach people about their own life and help them overcome their own situations. You know how to duplicate money by investing in the stock market, helping people build wealth and build a legacy. And yet you are still only always counting on somebody to give you your worth. And you know that nobody can ever pay you more than 10% of the value you bring into the company. So I
That's
told myself, boy, I am never going to let myself be this vulnerable ever again. But you
profound.
know what? That's a manager. That's the best manager I've ever worked for.
Hmm.
Great guy, loving guy. It was totally out of his control. He didn't do nothing wrong. It's a simple corporate decision, based on what the corporation is trying to go, based on their
Absolutely.
own interest. My interest was none of their business. It didn't matter to them whether my father died. It didn't matter to them whether I'm going to foreclose on my home and get kicked out with my family. It didn't matter. Now I learned another very important lesson, which I knew, but that reinforced it for once and ever for me, Paulo.
Hmm.
I learned on that incident that at the end of the day, tears will bring you sympathy, only sweat will bring you results.
Wow, that's profound. So, tears will bring you sympathy.
Sympathy, only
Only
sweat will
sweat
bring
will
you
bring you
results.
results. Let's stop
Because
there.
you know what?
Let me take
It
that down.
might be their fault,
Hmm.
but it is your responsibility.
Yeah, this has been a very insightful and inspiring conversation. Thank you so much, Gustav, for giving us all this knowledge, for sharing all this knowledge with us, and for all the nuggets that you've shared so far. I'm loving it.
Absolutely.
I'm fired up. I'm pumped. Like, oh wow, you've been through so many ups and downs, like
Yes.
all these things
Yes.
that you've shared. And thank you for being vulnerable with me on this podcast.
Absolutely, Paul.
My
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about investing because you,
Yes.
of course, you were here during the first economic recession in
Yes.
2008,
Yes.
and the global stock market is worth about $270 trillion, and the
Yeah.
US represents over 50% of that worth,
Correct.
which is amazing. So
Yes.
one would expect that everybody in the US would be participating in that wealth building machine,
Correct.
investing and making money. So I just want to talk briefly about one of the biggest mistakes that people make when investing. Or let me start by saying, if someone is listening to you right now and doesn't even know how to invest at all, whether he's listening to you from Cotonou in Africa or listening to you
Mhm.
from Texas in the US and wants to participate in the US stock market, what would be the first three steps that you encourage the person to take in participating in the stock market?
Awesome. That's a very important angle, Paul. And I like the fact that you want us to talk about investing, right? Because that is the number one way of building wealth in America,
Hmm.
investing on the US stock market. Number one. And number two, for most people listening to us, most of us were raised to understand we have to save our money. That is true. That is powerful, but that's just one part of the story. Saving is one part. But what do you do with saving? Because we know there is something called inflation. Inflation is a very complex economic big term that they use for economic circles to make people feel important. What inflation really means is that the value of your money is depreciating over time. So,
Yeah,
for example, we are December 30, we are December 4th, 15th today. The value of $100 today, what $100 can go buy in the grocery store today. If you hold that same $100, put it under your pillow at home and take it out this same time in 2026, that $100 will buy less than it
absolutely.
bought today. What
Hmm.
it really means is that the value of that money has depreciated. So inflation runs about 2 to 3% every year. There is just no way you can only save your money because most savings accounts will give you 0.0075% in interest. High yield savings accounts might give you 4 5% at the most. So the amount of money you save should just be money that is geared towards maybe your emergency fund, which if you need handily, you need to have it available, or is geared towards a specific project in the short term. Investing is the mid to long term path to wealth and success. Ladies and gentlemen, there are three ways you build wealth. And if you want to build wealth, you have to do it one of those three ways. The
Hmm.
first thing, of course, investing on the
Okay.
stock market and investing in yourself, which means getting the knowledge, getting the skill, getting the exposure, getting the experience. The second way is through real estate, right? Investing in real estate ventures. It could be buying single family homes and putting them on rent. It could be investing in real estate trust, which is companies that invest in real estate. It could be investing in investments where you come together and buy an apartment, or you could be investing in land banking, as we know, but real estate. So developed real estate, right? That's one. That's that's another way. The third way is building a business of your own, which means you start your own company and you scale your company up to the amount of money you would like or you aspire to have in your life. Now, that is a great possibility, a great way to build, but is the way with the highest amount of barriers to entry. Because 70% of people dream about becoming their own bosses and owning their own businesses. Only about 3% will end up becoming successful and owning their own businesses. The reason why is because building a business is hard. Building a business takes sacrifice. Building a business takes uncertainty. Building a business takes the ability to keep working on something you don't know if it's going to pan out, but you believe deep in you that with the skills you have, the thing you're doing at some point is going to give, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of people don't really they romanticize with that idea, but realistically, it's not going to be for everybody.
It's
I
not a
know
game
that, and
for
I'm very
everyone.
transparent with that. I
I
coach
love
my people a lot. Yes,
I love that point that you just raised, and I love all the three steps that you talked about building wealth.
correct.
And this is just the reality. I put something on my LinkedIn, I can't remember, maybe over 3 years ago, that
Mhm.
entrepreneurship is great, but not everyone is built to become an entrepreneur.
No, no, most people are not.
Most people are not built to become entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
But what you can do is you can invest in yourself, build
Correct.
skills, build skills, get knowledge that will put you in a position where you can make reasonable amount of income that you can afford to put something aside and invest in the stock market, because everyone is looking for one thing: financial freedom. But the
That's fact.
problem is sometimes you don't make enough money to be able to cough out some money to invest. And when you find yourself
Mhm.
in that position, you just need to figure out what is the skill or what are the skills that I need to learn to take me from this point to another point where I can have more disposable income and I can participate in investing in the stock market. So I just
It's a
wanted
fact.
to put that. I just wanted to talk about that because I really love the points that you've mentioned. Now,
And I think, Paul, it's important that we talk about this thing a little bit in detail because people need to understand, right?
yeah.
We're living in a time today. Social media is like water. Fella says water, get enemy, right? Water no get enemy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more powerful than that because water can be used as a concoction for medication to treat people.
Hmm.
Water can be used to quench your thirst. But if you consume too much of it, you can get sick. It can be used as a concoction to make poison to kill people. So the internet today is like water. You use it for whatever purpose you are. Because sometimes people don't realize, right? The whole idea of entrepreneurship is being romanticized, it's been projected as the greatest thing that has happened. The truth of the matter is entrepreneurship is important. Without entrepreneurs, there will not be much traction in innovation and things like that. But also, it's important to understand the sacrifice and to understand whether you, as an individual, can handle that. But the beautiful thing about the times we live also is that most people will build wealth just doing a 9 to 5 job if
Hmm.
they organize themselves right. And that's what I teach a lot on my programs, on my platform, in my programs, in my one-on-one coaching programs, and all of that. I show people how to go from wherever they are in their life right now to becoming millionaires in real terms. The only difference is that you need a little bit of time and organization. What that means is, like you said, the first thing you want to do, you want to make some money. You want to make some money. You see, a 22-year-old finishes university, I want to be an entrepreneur. Listen, guy, take a year or two, go work for an organized corporation, see how structures are built, see how systems are built. Life runs on systems.
Hmm.
Without systems, you are wasting your time. I know that because I've run a business now for close to 10 years. The most difficult thing about building a business are systems. Systems means putting together frameworks that can operate without you in place. Otherwise, it's just a one-man employment, right? So you
Yeah.
make money. That's the first thing. Whatever job you have, that's how you make money. The second thing, you manage your money. right? You make first, which means the job you have, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever is coming in, you're a small business, whatever way you make income, you bring in some income. The second thing, you want to manage that income. You want to be able to segregate that income, take care of your bills and all the other things you want to do, right? The third thing, you want to multiply that income. And that is where investing comes into place. The ability to pay yourself first, to make sure that a certain percentage goes to you. People always talk about the fact that maybe they don't have enough to invest. No, that's not true. If you make investment as equally a priority, you will figure out how to have enough. Even if you don't have enough, you will figure out how to have something. Because remember, Paul, investment is a behavior, it's not a science. People don't understand. Investing is a behavior, it's more psychological and emotional, just like money, than it is physical and scientific. The
Okay,
stock
Gustav.
market is a representation of the emotions of people.
Before you go deeper into the investment, I quickly want to talk about. I want to talk about registered accounts. We call them registered accounts. In Canada, we have
Okay.
accounts like TFSA, RRSP.
Or like retirement accounts.
Yes, I know you guys have Roth IRA
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
401k. Do you want to
Yes.
talk briefly about the advantages that it offers if you invest through those vehicles?
Absolutely. 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 So I'll get to that.
Okay,
I'm actually heading towards that. So the
awesome.
third thing now is to multiply your money, right? Which is investing. Now the fourth thing is protect. You're not only protecting your money, you're protecting your assets, life insurances, business insurance, and different things like that, right? Wills and trust. And then the fifth thing is perpetuate. Because most of us don't only want to make money, we want to make money, we want to live a good life, but we also want to make sure that we build a legacy. And how you build a legacy is perpetuating and making sure that things persist even after you're no longer alive, right? Now
That's
you're talking,
powerful.
yes, you're talking about retirement accounts. Retirement accounts are very powerful wealth building vehicles. But you also have to understand, people have to understand the goal of retirement accounts. The goal of retirement accounts is the government's own way of making sure that they can minimize expenses for themselves. Most governments will say, okay, there is social security, right? And things like that. But in addition to that, the government's job is trying to incentivize you to invest in your retirement. So that way, when you get older and you get in trouble, you get sick, you don't have to fully count on them because they'll have to spend a lot on you. They want to make sure that whatever you're making in the course of your working life, you put some away. So to incentivize you to put some away, they tell companies that you can offer an investment vehicle as a benefit, which means if somebody puts away a certain percentage of their income, you can match that amount of money for them. That's an incentive.
Yeah.
So for most companies in the US, it's about 3 to 5%, which is 3 to 6% as a match. So
Okay.
basically, if you're putting 6% of your income, the company matches 6%. So that 6% by the company is free money. So my recommendation to all the clients I work with, to anybody listening to us, if you have a job, which is a full-time job mostly, if you don't know that, go to your human resource department if they haven't told you yet, ask them about their 401k plan. I think it's registered account in Canada or TSF, I
It's
think.
called the RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan in Canada.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ask them about the account, enroll in that account because a lot of people don't realize for some companies you might be enrolled automatically at 3%. Some companies you have to opt in. They'll share it, but some people don't even know about these things, right? You have to enroll in that account because whatever money the company invests in that, it's a free match for you and it's free money. Now, in addition to the retirement account, for example, here in the US, you can do one of two things. You can either invest to the maximum of 24,500 for next year. And then if you're above 50, there's a certain amount more. That is if you want to max the account out, right? But here is the interesting thing. The 401k account is a good vehicle, but it also has a few downsides in the sense that what the management fees are very high.
Hmm.
Number one, and it is less flexible.
I see.
And that is a good thing. in the sense that what? Because it makes it difficult for people to go back to the account and withdraw money.
Yeah, more
So
like
the
forced
system
savings.
makes it difficult, right? There are penalties you will get if you're withdrawing earlier than 59 and they have some cases 65, right? You also pay some taxes on the money and things like that. Now, under extreme circumstances, you can borrow from the account, maybe to buy your first home or if you have a health emergency. That is the 401k. So
Okay.
my recommendation usually for people is to at least contribute the match from
Yeah.
the company so that the company matches that amount, you get the free match because there are other vehicles that you can have a higher return without as much management fees. Because management fees adds up. 1% in management fees by the time you hit I think $1 million over 30 years, not you could easily have paid $150,000 in fees. That's a lot of money, even
Correct.
though it comes out in small amounts. But when you look at the multiplier effect, you look at the compounding, it adds up, right? So 401k is wonderful, but that is not enough. One mistake a lot of people make, them believe that their 401k is going to sustain them forever. No, that is just a small part of your retirement plan, right? The second element is something called a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA now, an IRA, sorry. We have two versions of it. We have a
I see.
traditional IRA in the US and a Roth. A
Okay.
traditional IRA receives money that has not been taxed yet. A Roth IRA receives money that has been taxed.
I
So
see.
the IRA, how does the IRA operate? The IRA is an additional way of saving for retirement that the government encourages. But the government gives very you can't put in much. So every year you can put in a maximum of 7,000. Next year is going to go up to 7,500, right? So you can either choose. You can put in before tax money, meaning when you want to withdraw it at retirement, you will pay some taxes. Or you can put after tax money so that the money grows tax free, right? That's another way you can go ahead and invest. Of course, if you are an independent business person, you have other things like self-employment, retirement, except IRA. You have, solo 401ks and things like that for independent business owners, right? But the important thing to understand is retirement is not a number. Retirement is a decision and a financial affordability decision. What I mean by that, traditionally, we hear retirement being talked about as you work, you go, you retire at about 65, 67. Who said that? The only reason why it applies to most people is reasonably for what they make. If you can, for the amount of money they can sacrifice to invest and put in their retirement, it's only around that age that they might be able to have some money that
Right.
with the weakness of their bodies, they can be able to live on about three-quarter of what their cost of living is and move forward with life, right? So
Yeah.
for most people listening to me, especially young people, because I know you attract a lot of young people, retirement at 65 or 67 is not a law. Nobody went and constituted that. There is
Yeah.
a law around when you can have access to those monies that you put in your retirement account. That is true.
But
Some of
you
them is
can decide
59, some
when
of
you
them
want
is
to
65.
retire.
But for you as an individual, you can decide when you want to retire.
Yeah.
The only thing is you have to decide how you're going to fund that retirement. Now, if you retire at 45 or 50, you cannot have access to that money yet. So you have to wait for that. But if you have other sources of income. But the important thing to also keep in mind, guys, is don't get obsessed about the things we see on Instagram today. Young people in their 20s, they are millionaires. Let me tell you, only less than 1% of households in America in the 20s earn 100,000 and more.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Let us sink in
less
a
than
little.
1% of less than 1% of 20 somethings are worth $1 million. The average age of a millionaire in America is 61 years old.
61. Yeah. So it
So
takes
I
time
want
to
people
build
to,
wealth.
it takes time to build wealth. I like that, Paul, because people sometimes, I think one of the things we suffer from a lot, especially immigrants, is we are trying to fast track the process. And in that process, we start doing stupid things. We start putting our money into some kind of scooter business because somebody said you put 14,000 Canadian dollars, you'll be part of a scooter business. Every month, they'll be paying you 7,000. Those are the things we fall into. We go, some
Yeah.
pastor will put his hand or her hand upon our head and pray and tell us we'll do this. And because we're trying to fast track the process. Meanwhile, there are safe, almost we cannot legally use the word guaranteed, but if you invest consistently in the stock market for 20 years, consistently, there is no way you will lose, especially if you invest in companies that are proven, have a track record. And even if you don't want to invest in individual companies, if you just invest in an S&P 500 ETF or an index fund, which is a basket of funds, you will not lose. You know why? Because the stock market goes up 78% of the times, Paul. You take any 10-year period, the stock market is up 7.8 years of those 10 years.
Wow.
That is why the stock market averages about 10% growth every year. And in this time, this is statistics from the last 70 to 80 years. The Iraq War, the Vietnam War, the Iran War, all the missile crises, COVID-19, name it, they all come, yet the market still keeps going up. So what happens, and the reason why I'm explaining this is because it has an impact on people's retirements, right? There is a connection between the way the market behaves and your retirement, because the retirement accounts are invested on the stock market. So if you don't understand that the stock market is a platform to take money from the impatient and give it to the patient, to take money from people who are impatient and give it to those who are patient and want to build over time, you
That's
will
it.
get in there and you are thinking it's a place to go multiply money quick and make money. That's not where you do that.
That's quite profound. What you just said is very powerful. And for people listening to us right now, we are almost coming to the end of this one. I just want you to take note. We bring Gustav, we bring him back because he has so much to share. When he talked about S&P 500, what that means is if you invest in S&P 500, like you just invest maybe $10,000 at once,
Yeah,
because of the historical performance of that fund, your money will likely double in 7 years. So there's
correct.
something called the rule of 72. What the rule of 72 says is it tells you how long it will take your money to double. And to do that, you just need to divide 72 by the interest rate that you are getting. Whatever you get is the number of years it will take your money to double. And it gets more interesting because Gustav mentioned about giving the patient the money, taking money from the inpatient and giving it to the patient. So imagine
Yes,
you invest $10,000 in S&P 500 and you wait for 30 years. That money would have doubled, would have compounded like 3 times or even
correct.
4 times because the first doubling will happen in 7 years, the second one will happen in 14 years. So your 10K becomes 20K in 7 years, then it
Mm-hmm,
becomes then it becomes 40K in 14 years. Then in
mm-hmm,
21 years, it becomes 80K. Then in 28 years, it becomes 160K. That's one
mm-hmm.
time investment of 10K. Now imagine
Yes,
if you do that consistently, maybe $100 every month
every month.
for 30 years. So
Correct.
I'm just so excited about what Gustav is sharing. Do you want to share how
Yes.
people
Let
can
me
contact you, or you can share a little bit more?
just before we do that, Paul, let me just share my screen for a minute. You see, I'm a very practical guy, and I
Okay.
like the way you handle, right? I usually in all my shows, my live shows, I show stuff. I like because you see, especially us immigrants, because a lot of us have gone to school, we have degrees, we have masters, PhDs. We try to complicate things for nothing. What you're doing is probably the most powerful thing you're doing for your community, because
Hmm.
you're teaching people and you're bringing people like me who can teach people simple ways to build a life of meaning and a life of pure joy. Let me share my screen for a minute.
Yes, please go ahead.
You
Yeah,
are just explaining the power of compounding, right?
exactly.
Yes. And I want to share this thing because it will really help your viewers understand how crazy easy this thing is.
Hmm.
Because one of the things that happens, Paul, is, do you know that highly educated people averagely perform worse than very lowly educated people on the US stock market?
Hmm.
Because they're trying to do too much.
Because they're too
They think
smart.
because they're experts, they're PhDs, they're masters, they're bachelor's degrees, they have intelligence, they follow processes, they got to overthink. Don't think it, guys. Listen to this. Look at what I have in front of me, Paul. I tell people that $250 million is half of $250,000 is half of 1 million. And people tell me, who taught you math? You don't know math. I say in the arithmetic math, it's not half, but in the compound interest math, it is half.
Exactly.
Because if you are investing here, if you're investing $833 a month, that is 10,000 in a 12 months period, which is 1 year. And an average return of 8%. I'm not talking 10, I'm talking 8% conservative here, right? And you're investing $833. It is going to take you 13.8 years to get to $250,000, right? And if you continue doing the same thing, investing $833 a month, within the next 13.8 years, again, you are going to get to $1 million.
That's
So
compound
you are
interest.
telling me, Paul, within the first 13.8 years at $833, it took me to 250,000. And the same period of time, it took me, my portfolio grew by $750,000.
Amazing.
That is the power we are talking here, guys.
That's why we call it magic, the magic of compound interest.
This thing doesn't require degrees. It doesn't require elevated knowledge. It doesn't require overthinking. All it requires is a decision and the emotional strength to just keep doing it. That's why I tell you, I mentioned from the beginning that investing has nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with feelings. Because a lot of people, when you start investing this money within maybe the first of these 13.8 years, maybe within the first 5 years, you are not seeing nothing. You think, this thing is not working. This thing is not working, right? And then all of a sudden, you hit 13 years, you hit 250,000, and you just keep hanging in there. By the time the next 13.8 years come again, now you're at $1 million.
Wow.
So imagine here that we're doing $1,000 a month.
Just imagine. Thank you, Gustav, for bringing this, for sharing this. We didn't talk about this. I'm glad you were able to share your screen. This has really put context into what we are talking about.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
At this point, I would like you to share your contact. And before then, this is just a disclaimer. Everything we share here is for educational purposes only.
Absolutely.
If you want to invest in the stock market, make sure you speak to an advisor or work with someone that can help you. Gustav,
Right.
interestingly, can help you if you want to do that. So, do you want to share your
Yes.
contacts and how people can contact you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Man, Paul, it was a great joy just hanging out with you. As you could tell, I was just getting started, but we'll have other opportunities, right?
Right.
This is something I'm not only passionate about, but I'm very obsessed. Because a lot of us immigrants come to Canada, we come to America, we work extremely hard. We make money, but we quickly forget that we are not going to be young forever. We quickly forget that money on labor will always make less money than money on money.
Wow.
I hope somebody caught that.
Wow.
Money on labor will always make less
Less
money
money
than
than
money on
money on
money.
money.
Because Warren Buffett says anybody who is not making money while they're sleeping will die broke.
Exactly. You're going to work until you
Right?
die.
So the goal is when you're making money coming in as your active income, you want to fight to invest as much as that in simplistic vehicles like the S&P 500. So that way, as you're sleeping, that is working double for you, right?
Right.
So you can certainly reach me on Facebook. Gustav BHU is my name on Instagram, on YouTube, which is why I share a lot of my long form videos, my podcast, my different videos. And also, I help first, second generation immigrants who have worked extremely hard in their lives, who are doing everything by the book, following the rules in America, in Canada, but still feel behind on their dreams, their purpose, and their pocketbooks. They feel like they're not able to make it to where they aspire to be at that point in their life. I will show you, number one, how to invest in yourself to uncover your purpose and to be able to be confident about what you are capable of. And then I'll also teach you how to invest in assets like stocks on the US stock market to build wealth and to bequeath a lasting legacy so your name will never be forgotten on the side of eternity. I run
Thank
both
you.
one-on-one programs. I also run group programs, and I certainly run master classes and things like that. So reach out, let me know you're coming from Paul's platform, and of course, it will be a joy.
Wow. This has been a very insightful episode. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful to you, Gustav, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing everything you've shared. So if you've listened to this
Okay.
episode, please share it with someone. If you found this insightful, share with someone, subscribe. Until I come your way again, stay thriving.